So let's start with some questions. Okay. So anyone who want to answer, they can raise their hand. So first question is like, what is the primary focus of quality assurance? What is the answer? Very simple question. Anyone?
B.
Okay.
Improving
Other?
processes to avoid defects.
Yes. Correct. Second,
Reactive process for identifying defect.
super. Okay. Next,
Process inspection.
Process audit.
yes.
Identifying
Sorry,
Process
identifying
process
audits.
audits.
yeah,
So
identifying
inspections is like you are actually going and checking the product, right? So yeah, very good. So now let's start with the next topic, which is cost of quality. Okay. So so far, whatever we have discussed, so we have seen like what is testing, why testing is necessary, test objective, uh, then what is quality, component of the quality. Then we have seen QC versus QA and the activities in QC. Okay, now we are going to discuss cost of a quality. Okay, so let's say a simple example. Okay, I'm planning to develop one product. Okay, let's say for movie booking. Okay, I have a timeline of 3 months. Okay, and development started. Okay, we are doing all kind of testing that needs to be done. Okay, and now let's say uh, when we are close to launch, we saw one gap in the requirement itself. Okay, and the gap is like there is no option to log in with mobile OTP. Okay, and with this I cannot launch the product. Okay, then like we go back to the team. Okay, with the team, and we, okay, this is what we had to develop, but somehow it got missed. Okay, there is only option to log in with the email address. So you can imagine in that case, if we have to build that, we have to start all the, uh, like the process flow, the architecture, uh, the logic, third party application integration for receiving the OTP, like those kind of things. And then this is going to like increase the project duration by 3 months. Okay. So you can imagine what is the cost of the quality. So it got missed by developer also, from the testing team also. And now this project has extended for 6 months. So that's why quality is important. And that is why this, I mean, we are specifying this as a cost of quality. So cost of quality is like total cost in, incurred by organization to ensure like product and services meet the quality standard. So if anything which is not meeting the quality standard is going to cost in terms of the quality also, in terms of timeline also, money also. Okay, there may be some like internal cost, okay, some external cost, okay, some cost is related to like appraisal cost, some prevention cost, right? If it is being managed properly, then you know we can actually control this cost of quality. But if you see, like, it's completely depending on like how the product or service is meeting the quality standard. So if, let's say, if we are starting the testing in early phase, for example, let's focus on only on the testing part. So we have got only documentation. Okay, there is no product, nothing is there. What kind of testing we can do? Okay, the example that I was showing, that could actually be found during the static testing itself. Like without touching the code, if we go through the requirement, we can figure it out. Like, okay, in authentication, this particular thing is missing. Okay, and if we are able to find out that particular issue at the early phase, okay, then we can save a huge cost, right? So it's always like cost of quality is associated with preventing, detecting, and correcting the defects properly on time. Okay. Any questions on this? Okay, we will go to the next one. Now, this is most important actually topic, test activities. Okay. So in test activities, so basically it starts with the test planning. Okay. Test planning, then we have test monitoring and control, test analysis, test design, test implementation, test execution, and test completion. In most of the cases, like we are focusing most on like writing the test cases and test execution. But in overall test process, it should start from the test planning, test monitoring and control, test analysis, design, implementation, execution, and test completion. Okay, so we are going to actually see in detail. Okay, so test wares and test role. So basically, test ware is a term used in the software industry to refer like any software or hardware which is needed to plan, design, and execute test. Okay, so this particular includes like test planning, test cases, test scripts. Okay, any system or software which is needed to perform the testing, any hardware like mobile devices, laptops. So any uh, like prerequisites to you know implement these items. Okay, and testware is like very internal part of the software testing process. It provides all the resources which is needed for testing any applications, properly. Okay, so for example, like you need some kind of like to maintain the test cases, you need Jira. Okay, for documentation, you are using Docspace or Confluence. Okay, to test some application, you need some cloud devices like browser stack. Okay, you need some physical hardware, Android, iOS devices. Okay, some access related, like if there is a third party software, like some paid tools, so those licenses, those tools, all those things comes under testware. So by name itself, you can see like hardware's testwares, right? So like for testing purpose, whatever is needed, that is the called testwares. Okay. Now, what are the different type of testwares? Okay. So one is like test plan, test cases, test script, test data, and test tools. These all are actually comes under testware. So to test anything effectively, so this is our checklist. So we should have all the things available before we do the testing. Now, role of testwares, right? So here, it like foundation, we can say like it is the basic equipment which is needed for the testers to, perform their comprehensive testing. Okay, so it brings accuracy, consistency, traceability, quality, and efficiency in the testing that we perform. Okay, so I'm not uh, covering this definitions. You can just go through what do we mean by efficiency, accuracy, consistency. Okay, you can just go through this deck. Okay, now what are the essential skills which is needed for testing? So as a tester, so you should have knowledge of automation testing, knowledge of programming languages like Java, JavaScript. So currently in our project, so we are using, let's say, Selenium with Java, okay, or Playwright we are using. Then we have Cypress, JavaScript, TypeScript we are using, okay. So we should have knowledge of the programming language. Then we should have knowledge of the test management tool, okay. So for test management tool, let's say if we are using X-Ray, uh, Jira, then we have like for documentation, we are using DocSpace. Okay. So we should have the knowledge of the test management tools which are available. Then a very good thorough knowledge of SDLC, software development lifecycle. Then we should have knowledge of agile methodology. We should have analytical communication skills and project management. So these are the key essential skills which is needed in the testing. Any questions on this? Okay. Now we have all the skills. There are a lot of best testing practices. Okay. If we follow this, we can achieve the quality in a better way, right? So there are few we have mentioned here that we should follow. Like first is the test plan. Okay. So test plan is very much important to achieve, the complete and efficient test coverage. Okay. And this is mandatory uh, for all the projects. So if you join any project, so you should always ask for the test plan. Okay. So if there is no test plan, the first thing we should work on the test plan itself. Okay. So this is very important. So we should have a proper test plan. And in the test plan, so basically we clearly state the purpose of the test plan, uh, such as like validating the quality functionality of the software. It should contain the scope, uh, like we have to define what feature, module, and functionality will be tested, what will be executed. We should mention the assumption and constant. So, uh, so those kind of information is needed. And so this is very important. Okay. Apart from test plan, there is something called test strategy. Okay. So test strategy is created at the value stream level. Okay. So the same test strategy can be followed by multiple team, but each team will have their own test plan. Okay. So test strategy is also very important. So in that we mention like what type of testing we need to do, what are the test labels, automation strategy, okay, then test objective, we also define test scope, in scope, out scope, test deliverables like test cases, test data, script, report, what kind of environment we are using, test schedule, roles and responsibility, defect management, risk and medication, entry, exit. So these kind of things is basically mentioned in the test strategy. We will see in detail. Okay. Second point is like requirement should be very clear. So whatever requirement is being defined in the Jira as a user story, that should be very clear. If you have any query, we can go and ask with the business analyst or product owner, or like even some clarification can be done with the developer also. Okay, so requirement should be very clear. Next, so we have to start first writing the high level test scenarios. Okay, and then try to break that in the test cases. So directly don't jump to test cases, because if you write a high level, test scenario, you can get better understanding from end to end perspective. Also, you can understand what is the like acceptance criteria, and then you start writing the test cases. Next important thing is getting the test cases reviewed. So this is very much important. Before you start executing the test, it should be reviewed by peer, and ideally like there should be some process where like all test cases should be reviewed by business analyst to like provide his sign off on the test cases before we start. But in some project, because of time constant, it is not possible, but it's always good to get it review. First point is like you, if there are two team member, right? So they can review each other, business analyst. At the end, we can publish that to everyone and we can upload in Jira. Okay, then next one is the determine the validity of test. So some kind of role play, right? We can perform. So always think from end user perspective. As the end user, what feature we are going to build and how end user will follow, right? So think from end to end business perspective and then try to write the test cases. Okay. And at last is the defect management. So ideally, like we should set up some defect triage meeting, which is currently not happening, but like it's always good to have, let's say, daily 15 minutes of defect triage meeting. Okay. So in that, someone can play a role of defect manager. And in that meeting, basically, we can actually discuss the issues. Okay. And then in that meeting, it is also decided like whether it's a valid or invalid, and product owner can actually define the priority. Like this is P1, P2, and developer will pick the P1 first and then P2. If there is any clarification is needed, so that discussion can happen there. So it's very important. If defect rise is not happening, so we should manage the defect management properly. So all the information, a screenshot, steps needs to be there. It should be assigned to the developer. We should ask ETF from the developer, start putting in Jira. Each defect should be linked with some test cases. Okay. And it should be properly reflected. So any question on the testing best practices?
No.
Okay. So we will move to SDLC. Okay. So SDLC is like a structured process used to develop any software. Okay. And it involves a series of stages that guide software development from initial planning to deployment and maintenance. Okay. And each stage has its specific activity and deliverables, helping to ensure that software is built in a systematic and efficient manner, right? So in this phase, like these are the some of the important phases we can say, or different phases. So first is the requirement for phase. Okay. So in this phase, the purpose of this phase is to gather and analyze the requirement of software product. Okay. So this is the purpose. So if I have to like build application to book hotel, so I will discuss, gather the requirement about that product. Okay. Like what kind of platform it will support, what are the features which is needed, starting from sign up to hotel search, then booking, payment, booking history, you know, the email communication functionality like that. This is just example. Okay. So in this requirement, what are the activities that we do, right? So in this, like activities includes like meeting with the stakeholder, okay, requirement documentation, feasibility analysis, and what are the deliverables in requirement phase, what we deliver. So we deliver a software requirement specification document. Okay. We call it SRS or BRS. Okay. And it has detail of functional and non-functional requirement both. Okay. Any questions on the requirement? Okay. We'll move to the design phase. Okay. So now requirement is captured in design. So what is the purpose of design phase? So the purpose of design phase is to create a blueprint for the software architecture and design. Okay. And what are the activities that we do? So we design the system architecture, data flow, diagrams, user interface, database design, and what kind of deliverables we have in design phase. So basically after the BRS or SRS, in this, we actually deliver HLD or LLD, high level design document and low level design document, which contain technical design specification. Okay. So this document is very much important to, develop the product accurately, and also for testing purpose also, that is very much important. So we should also always ask for BRS, SRS, and HLD and LLD. Okay. So these documents are very much important before development starts. Any questions so far? Okay. We'll move to the next one, which is like build or development phase. So the purpose of this particular phase is to write the actual code for the software based on the design specification. What activity we do? So developer team can actually do the coding. They can use any whatever programming language which is decided. In this, the code review also happen and version control also happen. Okay. And what they deliver a source code, development environment setup, or version control update. Okay. Next one is testing phase. So in testing phase, our purpose is to identify the defects in the software to ensure its quality and functionality, also the performance. Okay. And what activity we do? So we start with the unit testing, integration testing, system testing, user acceptance testing, right? And what are the deliverables in this? Anyone in test phase? Test cases, test script, defect report, test summary report, right? So this kind of reports. And then comes the deployment phase. So in this phase, basically, we release the software to production environment so that end user can use it. Okay. And at last, we have the maintenance. So in maintenance, like we provide ongoing support, bug fixes, updates to the software after the deployment. Okay. So any question before we move to software testing lifecycle? Okay, let's move. So you can see like in SDLC, we had this software testing phase, right? So for this phase, we have a software testing life cycle. So basically, software testing cycle is nothing but a systematic process that can involve a series of activities to ensure software is tested thoroughly, and there are different stages. Okay, so the first stage is the requirement analysis. So in this, what we do, like based on the BRS or SRS, testing team can actually start going through the SRS, and they can start actually preparing the RTM, requirement traceability matrix. And so they can just put what are the requirements. Later on, when they write the test cases, then the mapping will happen. But at least you can start creating that, and then you can start listing the testable requirements. So in the requirement, there could be a lot of information. There are like few things which are not even related to the testing, or some cannot be tested. So you should start listing what are the requirements which are testable. Okay. Next one is the test plan. So like test plan is created in the guidance of the test strategy. Okay. So as I mentioned, like test strategy is a document which is created uh, before the test plan, and test strategy is most common same in most of the project in a value stream. Okay, but when you start writing the test strategy, so what kind of activity we do? So we define the testing scope, objective, testing goal. Okay, estimate like how much time it will take. We can define the roles and responsibilities also. And also we in test plan, we mention like what are the required test environment which needed, what are kind of testing tool is needed. Okay, so in short, so we should have all the testing scope, objective, goal, environment, also the resource allocation plan. So that we actually doing test plan creation. Okay, environment setup. So basically, mostly like this will be done by the DevOps or like dev team itself. So we just need to have the information about the uh, test environment. If any configuration, any like access or all those things is needed, so those can be taken care in this. Then We have one more phase which I'm not able to see here. Maybe I can add it here. Just a minute. Test design. Okay. So in test design, so we actually create the test cases script based on the test plan, okay, and the testing requirement. Okay. And again, like we have to follow the best practices that we have seen here, like get it reviewed, check the accuracy, test data requirement, all those things should be proper. Okay. Then comes the test execution. So in test execution, we actually execute the test cases. We mark pass, fail, we log the defect, we assign defect to the developer, all those activities we do. And at the end, we have a test closure report. So in test closure report, we ensure like all the test objectives had been met, test completion criteria based on the test plan. Okay. We also actually in this document, we mention like what are the lesson learned, area of improvement, best practices. Okay. Test summary anyway, it will be there. And also like this should have the like sign off on the testing, that detail should be also there. Okay. So this is software testing life cycle. Any question on this? Okay, I'll move to the next one. So this is again, this is very important. So they ask some question like what is the difference between testing level and testing type? So don't get confused. Okay. So in the testing level, so we have like 4 levels. Okay. First is unit testing. Okay. So unit testing, we test the individual component and module, and the focus is the code level functionality, which is performed by developer. Okay. Then comes the integration testing. So in this phase, we test interaction between two modules, two units, right? And we verify like interfaces are working properly, data flow is happening properly. This can be done by testers also, like developer. Most important is the system testing. So the purpose of this is to test the whole application as a system. Okay. To check complete end-to-end testing. And this is done by the testing team. Okay. Next one, the acceptance testing. So this is validated by end user. They check if software is meeting the business requirement or not. Okay. So this one I have explained. Now, testing types. Okay. So the testing types are like unit integration, regression, uh, smoke, alpha. So all these definitions you can go, because we are already running out of time. Do you want me to go through, or you can just go through this definitions? Okay, this is just like whatever I have explained. So you can go through this. Shall we cover one more topic? Ridhima? Because we have only 5 days to complete this.
Riddhima has drop off. Raju.
Okay. Okay, fine. So let's continue tomorrow with from the static testing. This is very important topic. Okay.